welcome back to my channel. And so today I posted a poll on my channel a couple weeks ago asking what tutorial would be most helpful for you guys. Drawing hair, drawing bodies, drawing like faces, that kind of thing. And the vast majority said bodies, so that's what we're doing today. So this video is going to split into chapters. So first we're going to be doing female pose, male pose, dynamic poses, and different body types. So if there's one specific thing you want, you can just go to that part in the video. So yeah, first we're going to be starting with a female pose. So the way I like to start female pose is basically with a circle about like that. Just a very rough circle. That's going to be at the top of the head. Then coming down from that, I'm going to make two sort of kind of curved lines. And then I'm going to connect them down the middle, which is going to be where the chin is. Now, this is a less realistic sort of head, but it's very easy, and it's just kind of simple. So basically do like that, and then basically this top things right here, this is where the ears are going to be, if you made ears. And then basically a line down the middle and a line right here. This is where you'll be able to tell where the eyes and the nose would be. Okay, after that, you're going to make the neck. So for women, the neck I make a little bit more slender. And then right here I make a line for the shoulders a little bit down from where I ended the neck. Then you basically connect the neck to the shoulders. And so you're going to have more slender shoulders on the woman. So you don't want to make them come out too far. And the next thing I'm going to do is make the torso. So I'm basically going to make two lines. And for the girl, I'm going to make them coming in more. And then, of course, you're going to decide where you want the waist to be. And then after that, you're kind of going to go like this. And it looks like a dress right now, but this is actually going to be where the legs are. So basically, I start like that. And then after this, you're going to make where the legs and arms are. So for the legs, I like to come down a little bit, about like that. And then make the kneecap. And then come down some more. And then the other one, I'll make another one. And I want it to match up right here with the other kneecap. Like so. And then for the arms, it depends on what position you want the arm to be. So let's say I'm just having the arms at the sides. I'm going to make one come down like that, elbow, and then arm right there. You don't want the arms to be too long for girls. You're going to make them slightly longer for men to differentiate, but about like that is pretty good. And then after this, I'm going to basically start connecting things. So if these are the hips, I'm going to make the legs come down like this. And I'm going to see how do different body types, and obviously the legs are going to change a bit, but I'm just going to do something very standard right here. And then of course you're going to come down, and then if you're going to have their legs turned in at all, so let's say you're facing this way, where the kneecap is, you're going to make the calf kind of like that, and you're going to come in a bit like so, and then you want the leg to come down a bit like this. So for women's legs, you want them to gradually get smaller the further they go down to keep with the curve like that. And then you want them, and then obviously you're going to have feet down here like that. And then for the chest, basically I just like to widen it a bit. Obviously it depends on the age of the girl. And then you want the waist to be the smallest part to fit with the female body structure like that normally. And then for the arms, I normally keep them fairly slender, because if you get them too large, you might confuse with the male body drawing tutorial. And anyways, and then I'm going to come down like this and basically just make the arm over the elbows. And if you're going to bend the arm at all, like so, you'd want to bend it where you had the elbow placed, like that. And then this is like, that way it's equivalent to over here. And then I basically just draw like a circle where the hand would be. And then afterwards, I'll go back, fill that in, maybe make it like a fist or something like that, whatever you want it to be. And then, so that's basically how I draw the female body. And then you can go back and you can erase the guidelines, like so. And this is obviously just how I draw bodies. This isn't like a super, super realistic guide, but it's basically just like an easy way to make the proportions. So if you want to draw bodies differently or tweak yours to be a little bit different, this is kind of the unique way that I do them. I'm sure there's other people who draw them very similar to me, but this is kind of just what I found works for me, and obviously it's not going to work for everyone. So yeah, that's about how I do female bodies. And then obviously if you were drawing this into a person, the hair would be up here, and the eyes would be about here, and the nose and mouth would be about there. Alrighty, so that's basically the female body type. and then we're going to move on to the male body type. So, for the male, I'm basically going to make a head, and males are generally a bit taller, so if this is where the female head is, I'm going to make the male one a bit taller, like here. And then, so this is where the differences start, which is the jaw is a much more square on the male one. So you're going to, instead of these curved lines, you're going to have more sharp lines. And the chin is also not going to be so pointy. It's going to be a bit more flat, like so. And then you also make the lines for the nose and mouth and eyes. So more like that. And then you can have the ears. And then for the neck, I do make it a bit broader as well. And then the shoulder line is going to be a bit further up and a bit broader. So when I connect it, it's a bit more of an angular curve than just like a nice smooth curve. And then obviously the arms. And then for male, so bear with me here because it's going to look a little weird for a second. But I basically make a sort of two lines coming down where I want the torso to be. And I kind of just make them coming down a bit more. So obviously this looks weird right now, but we're going to fix it. So then you want to mark where the waist is going to be. I mark the waist right here. And then when your arms come down, you're going to do the same thing you do for men that you do for girls. And you're going to make the arms. And they might come down a little bit more, but they're going to be pretty much standard to the women. And then for this part, you're going to make it come in a little bit. But you only want a little bit so it doesn't look weird. Like that probably. And then for the legs, you're going to make the legs as well. And keep in mind the legs are going to be a bit broader. And there's not going to be a curve right here or right here. And the waist is not really going to come in much. So that's basically the major differences. And then when you do the legs, you're going to keep them about the same as the girls, except they're going to be broader. And then also the calves, you might want to draw them a bit bigger if you're making someone more muscular. And if you're not, then you can make them just kind of more straight down. So if we go like that, and then the feet would be down there. And then for the arms, you're going to come out, and then you want the shoulders to be a bit more angular here. If you notice for the girls, we kind of had a nice smooth. But for the boys, we're going to make it, and they're also going to be more like broader, like the width is going to be more. And then we're going to go about like that. And you can obviously change how they are, like what direction they're facing. You can kind of move them around. We're going to talk about that more when we get to dynamic poses. And I used to struggle a lot with drawing boys, but I kind of figured out a good thing that works like this. And then you basically just want to figure out where the stomach is and where the chest is. So I just make two little lines right here. And so if you're going to make a shirt or clothes, that would help you out there. And then obviously 2 circles for the hands like normal. And also if you're going to draw the hands, hands are going to be bigger than on females. So you're going to want to make it a little more maybe like that or something. So yeah. And then of course like normal, we can erase the guidelines. And then if you're going to draw hair, if you imagine the hair be like right there maybe. I don't know what kind of hairstyle is, like 70s hair or something. And then obviously erase the guidelines. And this is going to be your most basic male body type. Obviously if you're drawing realistic, you're going to have a lot more in-depth work than this. I kind of just guess. I don't really have like measurements. I know some people use measurements and proportions and shapes. And I don't do that as much, only because I don't feel like it's super necessary when you're not drawing realistically. I mean, if you want to, that's totally fine. But I just don't. And I mean, it works for me, but yeah. Okay, so that's basically your standard male and female bodies. And yeah, so that's how that's going to look. And then after that, we will move on to dynamic and other like body types. So that's going to include basically just like making them thinner or like wider or that sort of thing, there are some tricks for that, so let's move on to that. Alrighty, now for dynamic poses. So basically when you come to dynamic poses, it's all about manipulating the limbs and the position. So when we made our female body type, we made like the face and the arms and the torso and that sort of thing. So it's basically the same for the face, but this is where things are going to get a bit different. So the face can stay the same, but let's say you're going to have your person, let's make a person who's running. How about that? So if your person's running, then you probably want the face to be looking this direction if they're running that direction. So you're basically going to take the line in the middle, instead of making it straight down, you're going to make it a bit curved, and then this line a bit curved also. So now it looks like they're looking in this direction. So basically, you can make the torso about the same, but you're going to want to, the limbs are going to be the most important part. So let's say that this is going to be a female one. Let's say that you have the torso here, and then of course the legs, but you're going to want to have it a bit more facing this direction because that's the way they're facing. So if you have the chest that's a bit wider, you make it facing that direction, and you don't widen it on this side to make it look like that's the way they're facing, such as that. And then when you make the legs as well, you're going to have, so let's say they're running, right? So if this leg is down, then you're going to have it in the direction it would be down. So let's say it's like that, and then their foot is like this, and then this leg is up and it's running like so. And then how do arms look when you're running? Like you're jogging, your arms would be kind of like this perhaps, and then like so. And then you always want to make the elbow joint. So let's say that's how a person might look when they're running. So then we can basically just fill out the legs and the arms in the same way. So that's kind of my trick for doing dynamic poses, is to draw the guidelines first, because this makes it so much easier, and you don't really have to think about it when you're sketching, because look, now I can just go on how that looks. And then also you always want to, so let's say this leg is in front, so then we would erase this part, so then it looks as though this leg is coming behind that leg. And so if we go like that, and then let's see, the arms also, you want to figure out where those things are going, so those things. So this one's probably going to be in front because that'd look a little weird if it was in back. And then this one is going to be kind of hidden and then come out. You kind of just want to think about how a runner would look. Same thing with like sitting positions. So like so, maybe like that. And then the feet, so let's say if a runner's running, their feet isn't probably going to be flat on the ground. So let's say it might be like that, like only their toes touching the ground. And then obviously you can make the feet whatever size you want. And then sometimes I like to make a little shadow here to show that they're not all the way on the ground. And then, of course, you can make their hand maybe balled into fists or something. I'm honestly not great at drawing hands, so I'm not going to make a tutorial on that yet. Maybe if I get better, then I will. And then you always want to, so if I'm going to go over in pen, I won't erase the guidelines, but if I'm going to keep it a sketch, I will erase the guidelines just for the sake of making it look nice. And then, of course, if you want to draw clothes, you can make like a little t-shirt or something, and then some jogging shorts, something like that. And then also you want to make sure you know which way the hair is going. So if the person's jogging, their hair is probably going to be flying out behind them. So let's say if you make like a ponytail or something like that, their hair is probably going to be going like this behind them if they're running fast. So I just want to think about those sort of things as well. I am going to make a hair drawing tutorial, so I'm not going to go too in depth on that here. But yeah, so that's basically how you would draw a person running, and you basically implement this into any sort of position. So the other dynamic pose I'm going to do is sitting, because this is something that comes up a lot. So the face is always going to be the same. You're just going to go which way it's facing. You can do side profiles, but I don't think they're needed most of the time. So if we do the face, and then for sitting, you kind of want to think about, you can even you can even sit down on the floor or something and see how like your legs are crossed when you're sitting or something like that. That kind of thing. But the other thing I'll do is I'll kind of just, this is also just kind of seeing what looks good, because some things look good in real life and then they look kind of weird when you put them on a less realistic character. But so I'm going to make a person with their like fist on their chin and then their leg on their knee. So this is kind of a more complicated sitting position, but I kind of just want to show what it might look like. So again, we're going to do the guidelines, and then of course the chest and the torso. And then basically what I'm going to do is, if I want this to be more of like a hand on our knee, I'm going to make the knee be right here, of course. So, and then the foot maybe like right here. And the tricky thing about sitting positions is you don't always see all of the limb. So maybe her knee is just directly behind this spot. And that's kind of the hard thing that you have to get used to. So let's say her knees are up like this, and then she has her leg right here, and then like so. And then, but you might not see all of her leg when she's sitting like this, because that's kind of just how it works if you're working with proportions. So then, of course, you can kind of fill out the rest of the body. You want to make sure the limbs are full. And then, let's say she's sitting with her hand down like this. And I keep wanting to say like so. It's kind of weird. Like that. And then kind of just like that. Or actually, that looks really weird. We're gonna have it across. So you can see, like what I'm doing is I'm basically kind of just manipulating where things are and what they're looking like. And like, see, I just kind of changed that position up. And as you get better, you won't have to use the guidelines every time. You can kind of just like see. And then let's say she's sitting on like a little pillow or something. And then you're obviously probably not going to see all of her legs. So let's say you just kind of see like this. And then her feet look really weird, so we're going to change that. But it's kind of just like playing around. As you can see, it's like really sketchy, really like rough. And then let's see her feet are like that. And then you can kind of see where, so this would be about where her leg starts coming up, like that. And you want to keep the proportions in mind as well. I know there's probably, I don't know, there's a lot of drawing that's kind of just like how you do it. So it's kind of hard to explain this, but basically that's kind of how I do it. I kind of just like mess around with it until it looks good. And then of course you can make her hair. And then whatever direction she's looking, so I'm going to have her looking up, so her eyes would be like looking up into this spot. And then you can kind of, again, just erase the lines. And then another thing I like to do is I like to have a really sketchy phase. And then I kind of erase that. I kind of make it lighter. And then I will erase it a bit. And then I'll go back over it and make it a bit more precise. Even if I'm like, if I do pan, I'm not going to bother to do this. But if I'm just sketching, I don't want my sketches to be so messy that I can't see what they look like. So that is a time when I would do this. And then I'm just going to kind of follow those lines. And then, so yeah, this isn't perfect, obviously. I'm kind of just trying to tell you that when you do positions like this, you kind of have to just see what looks good. But just keep in mind that the original female body pose, because that's going to help you a lot when you're doing these sort of things. Because if you have that, if you know how to make that original structure, you can kind of manipulate it into whatever way you want to make a different position. Sketching is that you can't always see the dimensions, so if you were to shade this, you'd be able to tell that this is just the front of her leg, and the back of her leg is like still there, but it's hard to see this when you're drawing someone with just two-dimensional lines. So I can't exactly show you guys that, but if you were to shade this, you'd be able to tell that this is the back and this is the front. You can kind of do like a little bit of shading right here or something like that, and that sort of thing to be able to tell. But yeah, so that's basically how you draw someone sitting, and then a dynamic pose such as running. Now we're going to move on to body types. Okay, so this portion is going to be pretty quick. So there's not a lot to say about body types. It's basically, so you have certain proportions that are going to be manipulated in order to create different body types. So these are basically going to be the shoulders, the calves, the waist, the chest, and the hips. So let's say you're going to make someone with a slightly larger build. You'd basically make the waist in this a bit bigger, like that. And then you'd want to widen the hips, definitely. And then also the calves would be widened, like that. You would kind of want to make, I don't know how to explain this exactly, but you kind of want to make a, kind of like a wider calf, like that. So, and then if you were to erase this, and you can see that it kind of just widens the body type, and then you can do this however much you feel is necessary for the what, because you can make pretty much any body type just by manipulating these few areas. And then, so I don't know, it's kind of like if you're used to making only one certain body type, it can be hard at first to get these other body types. And I think sometimes you just kind of have a default that you go to. So there definitely is some practice involved. I'm definitely not, I kind of want to get better at that, like drawing different body types, because I'm not super good at that right now. And yeah, so there's how you would kind of make the body bigger. And then let's say if you're going to make it smaller, what you would do is you would basically use the same places. But so let's just make this a bit lighter so you can see. So this is kind of where the bigger body type is. That's kind of where the medium one is. And so basically if you want to make it like a smaller body type, you're going to do the same thing, but you're just going to make these things. And then the other thing about small body types is you want to make the hips less pronounced. So if someone is very skinny, they're not going to have as big of hips. So you kind of want to make them a little more like, oh, I don't know. You're going to want to make their curves less pronounced. That's kind of one of the tricks to drawing thinner body types, is to make them a little more slender and just kind of not as pronounced. And so yeah, that's kind of the trick for that. And then you also want to make their calves a bit less noticeable, I guess. And then the curves in their chest and hips are going to be less as well. So as you can see, I kind of made her skinnier now. And so that's kind of the trick to drawing different body types, is kind of just like playing around with those areas. And so yeah, so this is the chest, which you're going to always want to change, and then the waist. The shoulders aren't going to change too much because, as I said, for men have larger shoulders and women normally have slender shoulders. Obviously, if you want to make someone with broader shoulders, you can do that, but as far as changing body types, that's not going to be super important. So the hips are definitely one of the most important parts. So the chest, waist, hips, and then the calves also is more pronounced if you're going to widen the body type, and less pronounced if you're going to make the body type more slender. So those are kind of my tips. You can also, if you're going to make the body type larger or thinner, you can also change the arms a bit, make them thinner or thicker. You can obviously just make the entire body a bit bigger, but this is kind of just a more, I guess, realistic way to do it, is to change the certain parts. So that's kind of my tips for how to draw different body types. Obviously, the same thing applies for men. Although the curves are not going to be as much of a big deal, it's more going to be about just making the entire thing wider. You're also going to want to focus on the stomach more, because for men, they carry weight more in their stomachs, and for women, it's more in their hips. That's why we change the hips on the women and the stomach on the man. So yeah, that's basically my advice for drawing different body types. And then, of course, we have the dynamic poses. I hope this tutorial helped you. I'm definitely not an expert on this stuff, but I do draw a lot of people. It's kind of my main thing. So I hope this did help you, and that you can definitely like draw along to this if that's helpful for you. So yeah, I hope this helped you. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! Love